Hey everybody, Robert with RC Archery, and you are watching Tuesday's Tip of the Week number 99. We are one away from the grand 100th episode, which is pretty cool. Can't believe we've had that many on this channel. Obviously, there's been some other videos and things that have happened along the way, but I've got some cool things planned for that one. I will definitely have one archer that I'm working with on coaching that I can kind of walk through that process and show you what we're doing, let you see some common, maybe some commonalities that you have with that person. And then I'm going to try to get maybe one or two others in there just so I can show you just some areas, ways that I work through things with people, what they look like, and the misdiagnosis that a lot of people get when they go into like archery talk or Facebook, or maybe if you're just looking at yourself on video and you see something that may be wrong. We're actually going to cover some of that today too, which will be kind of cool. But in today's video, we're going to be going over some reasons why your float on target sucks. I mean, there's lots of them. I've gone through most all of them and still struggle with several of them myself. But I see very common issues between a lot of people that I work with, and I'm going to go over those areas today. Hopefully give you the best bang for your buck. Let's get started. All right, area number one is our bow shoulder. This one is super important, and honestly, it's probably the leading factor for most people with how well they hold on target. And you can screw this up in a lot of different ways. So what we're going to focus with today is a couple areas to set the shoulder in place and then also be able to adjust the bow's draw length to get that shoulder in its optimal position. The big thing that I want to point out with a lot of people is they don't know what to do with the draw length on their bow, and they don't know where their shoulder should be. A lot of people don't even look at this and think about it. But even as you start getting into the realm of this and start looking at where should my draw length be, what should my shoulder feel like, and if you're getting that up and down wobbly float, or if you're just getting really big swoopy float motion, something like that, a lot of the times it's the shoulder. Our shoulder has a ton of range of movement. It's pretty spectacular. An average adult male will have roughly 2 to 4 inches of draw length that they can change on a bow and still be able to shoot that bow. Depending on your skeletal structure, the way your body is set up, other factors like that. So I'm going to show you a couple different clips here. This is my bow set up with an optimal draw length for me, but I'm going to show you where if I'm a little bit pushed out on the shoulder, what that looks like here and how the string won't come to my face. And somebody would diagnose this looking at it and say your draw length is too short, you need to lengthen it out. You can lengthen that draw length out. It's still not going to help you hold steady on target if that shoulder is stretched out and if you're too far out with that joint, because there's nothing there to hold that joint in place anymore. Your stabilizing muscles won't hold it. Your core is not going to hold it, and you're going to cause yourself problems. In reverse, now in this clip, you're going to see me drawing back the same bow with the same setting for the draw length. This time, I'm going to scrunch my bow shoulder up. And when I scrunch the shoulder up, the string's going to come back behind my nose. It's going to be on the side of my face. And a lot of people at this moment are going to say your draw length is too long, shorten your draw length. But if you do that and the shoulder is scrunched up like that, you're not going to be able to hold well on target, because that shoulder being so far scrunched up is creating a couple different issues. One, it's held up, so the socket itself is not in a natural position. It's actually scrunched up. You're probably going to long-term notice some pain in your back and your neck and your shoulders, some things like that. But it's also not going to allow you to be able to get your release hand back and get that scapula on the release side moved over into your spine very well, because your muscles and your scapula on the bow side are shoved over. So it's going to create some problems there. Now, how do we know what to do with this? Well, that's an easy one. Stand here without a bow in your hands in a normal position and raise your arms up from your side. That's where you should be. Super simple. Your shoulder is completely encased here with all the stabilizing muscles. The joint is supported, everything with your core is supporting that joint as well. It's going to start supporting the weight for you. And from that point, literally just take the bow, bring it up from your side, and draw it back. And that is the easiest way to fine tune that draw length and find the perfect position that your shoulder needs to be in. All right, area number 2 we're going to look at is still involving the bow shoulder, but it's how we are setting up the joint's angle to be most stable. And this starts with our stance. Most people have no clue when it comes to addressing the target with our feet, what to do here, and they've never even thought about why it would matter. And really what we're doing is we need to create a stable balance point for our body, and it's all based off of angles. When we open our stance or close the stance, we are changing the angle the shoulder is taking with our bow hand. So if I stand completely square to the camera, I am here. In this position, I don't have a ton of support on the front side, but I do have good support on the back. If I close my stance off and then readjust to the target, then I have virtually no support on the front of my shoulder. But if I open my stance up just a little bit, then this shoulder is then supported from the front and the rear. And that is what we want as a baseline when we're looking at setting up our stance, is that slightly open stance. Now I go a step further here. I build my entire shot around a natural point of aim. And the ideal behind this for me is that if the shot goes off early or if it goes off late, I am not drifting away from the target or starting away from the target. It also helps me get on target easier and faster as I'm anchoring and start working through my shot faster without wearing the muscles down and without creating too much lactic acid, so that I'm holding better on target from one shot to the next. So from here, that's where my coaching program comes in, and I teach you an optimal position. But at the very least, you want to be a little bit slightly open, and that's going to help you engage the muscles the best. Now, the bonus tip to this, the additional information here, is how you set up your stance, how open you are to the target, determines your body's natural draw length, which in turn makes you have to adjust the bow's draw length. So keep that in mind. If you need to be more open to the target than the way you've been right now, or less open to the target from the way that you've been currently, your draw length is also changing, because you're changing the overall triangle that runs from your bow hand through that shoulder area into our core, our chest, whatever you want to look at here, and then through our release hand, and then back into the bow. That triangle there is opening and closing based off of what we're doing with opening or closing our stance. So keep that in mind. That is a big factor on what we need to do to adjust that bow to fit us. All right, the third thing that we're going to talk about today does involve the shoulder as well, but it's more of a byproduct in what we're doing with it, and it's our grip. A lot of archers, me included, when I first started out, will hold a bow naturally the way they've probably held other types of recreational equipment, to keep me from getting demonetized here on this lovely YouTube platform. You might know what I'm talking about when I'm talking through this. We don't want to squeeze the grip on the bow like we would other objects. We want the bow to sit in a natural position on the flat part of our thumb side here, off the lifeline. And the reason we want to do that is we want to create a little bit of a pocket and an angle here so that our shoulder is set up in a good location. If you hold your hand out like this and start to pronate and supinate your hand, so turning it up and then turning it back down, or even if you want to, turning it thumb down, put your hand on your shoulder as you do this and then see how things feel. You'll start to notice that your shoulder joint changes with what our elbow is doing. And that's because of the way the bones are in our hand, in our arm running up into our elbow. As we start to turn that hand, it shifts, and then it in turn puts torque and changes how our shoulder joint reacts. So keeping our hand really vertical like this and our elbow really far down, we're actually pulling our shoulder joint out of socket. If we're natural with it and we have this roughly 45-degree angle, you don't have to be perfect here, but that's the idea behind what people talk about. Doing this, it allows that joint to actually seat itself in place. And again, those stabilizing muscles start working for us that way. and it helps you be a lot steadier on target. When I'm using this and when I'm teaching my grips to people, generally I'll tell you when you're new here is to curl the middle, the ring, and your pinky finger into your palm. And the reason I tell people that is it naturally creates a pocket to keep you off your lifeline, and it kind of naturally creates that 45-ish degree angle. If you've never used this before and you're used to squeezing and gripping the bow and you have a surprise shot, you probably want to use a wrist sling or finger sling, which finger sling is what I use. You'll see it in a lot of my videos. Something to catch the bow. A lot of bows, hunting bows, don't have a ton of jump forward towards the target because of the way the limbs are set up and the limb pockets, but target bows definitely do. Most of them anyways. So keep that in mind. Even with the hunting bow, you probably still want something on there so you're not having to squeeze on the bow or start reaching or grabbing for the bow. Those are creating some bad habits you don't want to get into. All right, if you're liking these newer style of videos that I put out, the last couple here where there's definitely more editing work on my end, it's showing more live footage, different things like that, this video included, give me a thumbs up on this video, let me know. And then if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, why not? Go ahead and subscribe. Helps the algorithm for YouTube. It lets more people see these videos. The thumbs up helps more people see them, and it does more for our community here on YouTube with RC Archery. Appreciate everybody watching today. I'll see you soon.